Today we're going to be talking about SpotOnResponse, who's available, where they are, and what they will do. And today we're joined by Craig Fugate, who's a partner in SpotOnResponse, former administrator of FEMA.
Thanks, Jim. When I first started, when Jim had contacted me, I started looking at this, I began to understand something that we've always had a challenge with in an EOC, and that is getting timely updates. Historically, we've either had to take calls from staff or emails or texts, and then we have to re-enter it into another system that is our EOC operational software. There had been some attempts to build systems that were more vertically integrated, but it tended to dictate to get those reports into your system, you had to use something specifically designed by that system. One of the things that really intrigued me about SpotOnResponse is it's using something that was already developed, Exchange Core, which is something that DHS had been promoting and developing as an idea that we should be able to feed across multiple EOC platforms the same information. And so because SpotOnResponse uses Exchange Core, it allows to both display information within the program, but also share that information instantaneously into your web EOCs and other types of EOC management systems. Now, the other thing it does is because we're using mobile technology, essentially the folks that are out there with their mobile phones, those phones know where they're at. And this app takes advantage of their GPS and their locator. So when they're sending information in, they're not having to also tell you where they're at. The phone will add that to the product and allows them to report in a variety of pieces of information. So I'm at Reagan National Airport. I'm getting ready to go back home. So I'm sitting here, and as I rolled up, actually, I'm going to show you a little bit as Jim gets into this, a spot report, what it looks like. But as I rolled up, fire and EMS were here dealing with a medical emergency. The fact that it's Reagan National, it's in the nation's capital, and this was a minor incident, but what if that had been something that was escalating? Staff would have been able to quickly update the EOC live from the site, giving them both video, fixed pictures, their descriptions of the incidents, and not just coming in, it would actually be showing up on the map. So as we go through this, we're going to talk about how we can update and get status reports from staff. But probably another feature that I saw great value in is just staff accountability. And that is, disasters don't always come with a forecast or a warning. And when something happens, you're not always sure where staff are at, who's impacted, who can actually show up. If you're on the EOC roster, who's actually able to get in? We've seen with flood events, flash flooding, that a lot of the staff we count upon, they may be impacted themselves, or they may be okay, but they can't get into the EOC, and you need to adjust your plans. And having this coming in not from a series of emails or texts that you got to then re-enter in your system, but actually feeds the system, graphically displays the information, and quickly builds situational awareness, in many ways mimicking what social media does, but without the inherent risk of social media. This is a closed system. People that are in your system, that are registered in your system, are known to you, so their reports are coming from trusted sources and are based upon their observations and the locations they're at. It provides many of the benefits of social media without the risk. And again, as we are going to walk through this, there's a lot of different scenarios, both from the routine and reoccurring to the catastrophic, that this app and its basically Swiss Army knife of capabilities really, I think, takes us to this whole problem we've had of how do we get information faster from the field into the decision makers and the tools they're using without having to go through multiple steps of entry or risk information coming in that we haven't been able to verify. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Jim as we walk through this, but I'm going to be on this call, and I'm going to pop in a couple of times, and we want to kind of show you some examples of some of the capabilities that SpotOnResponse has. Jim?
Great, thanks, Craig. And what you're looking at now, you see Craig down there at National Airport, his location established there by his mobile device. And the little pop-up allows us to be able to see information about him. And as we take a look at SpotOnResponse, I'm on an Android device on the left-hand side, and if I want to drag things around and see the mapping information, that's all available. At the same time, there's a list of what we call items of interest. And these can be sorted in many different ways. These items of interest are problems like a residential fire, it's a infrastructure, like the John Marshall School, or it's dynamic information brought in from elsewhere. For example, these road and traffic incidents in Maryland. As Craig was saying, integrated in with other applications to be able to provide these road closures in the Maryland area. Pop those up, and this is a north-south road. There's traffic closed in two of the shoulders. So that form of integration that SpotOnResponse enables through Exchange Core is very, very important capability that we're not even going to talk about today. You saw a minute ago, Craig was down here. This person, he's blue, and when we click on him, he is part of the clearinghouse team. Come up here, there are other little people here. There are yellow people, and these people are CERT representatives. There's Richard, and there's another CERT person who's Tom. And the idea is that we're able to provide organizations with the ability to identify their personnel and find out what everyone is doing in their status at that time. And I'm going to do that and illustrate it on using the mobile app to communicate with the web application at home. So I am now going to go back on the mobile app to the home page because I can get to the status map, what you're seeing on the right. There are spot reports that we'll talk about a little bit later. My IOI is where we store the plans, and we'll be taking a look at that. And then my status, that's where we want to go now. So I'm simply going to touch my status, and what I pop up with is a choice of having no status, and the administrator can turn everybody's status off to revert after an emergency. But then you indicate simply by touching I'm okay, or a special condition, or not available. Those words are tailored by your administrator. So if you want to say, instead of I'm okay, this is fantastic, your yellow can be, gee, I'm a little concerned, and not available means, gosh, I couldn't get up this morning. You can put those words in there. So everything that you're seeing, lots of customization available. And I'm going to jump right to not available. So we've set not available on the mobile app. It now appears on the web application as well as everyone else's mobile app, so everyone knows my status. Craig, don't know whether you've changed your status or not. Nope, Craig has changed it from no status to I'm okay. So from mobile app to other mobile apps and back to the command center, you get the information about people's status. But you would also like a nice list of that information so that you can analyze it further. This is how we get that. So you come to this profile report, and this is going to list for me everyone who's part of the team, part of this organization that we're working in. Here we've got several people that we have. We see the status of each one of those. We see their last activity, last time their device checked in. And Ron Kelly was just the last person that, as you saw, plus the information about them. They are part of the CERT, or the Emergency Management Agency. Their actual location, so as they're moving around, you're able to see them, their location. Their skills, availability, languages. Again, all of this is up to you. You can pick whatever set of information you want to have about that personnel. They fill it in, as you see here, and it then becomes available for others to be able to see. For example, you noted over here on the mobile app on the left-hand side that Richard Galen did fill out the fact that while he's not available, he's available 24/7. He has no language skills. He's using the cell phone, and he has a commercial license to operate heavy equipment. That was also seen, as we saw before, in that list. So at a management level, I can see everyone. And if I'm performing a task and going to have somebody who's nearby me, like Kinsel there, I can check and say, all right, he's a member of the CERT team. He speaks English and Spanish, and he uses an IP radio, but has no heavy equipment. People, location, capability, and availability are all part of the package that exists here. That's the first piece we wanted to show you. Let me just see whether, Craig, you have anything that you'd like to add to that first part on our personnel status and capabilities?
If you think about the status and one, being able to see your staff and things like that, but some of the examples that Ernie and I've talked about is just the ability to quickly update and see where your team is, know what their status is. And like we said, we purposely kind of use, if you guys are familiar with my version of the Waffle House, 3 primary colors of red, yellow, and green. Blue, because we realized there would always be kind of an outlier where you want to identify staff that maybe they're on vacation or they're not available and you don't really want to track them. But it's this idea that by labeling those buttons, it could be a very simple, I'm okay, I need, you know, not okay, or I need help, to, you know, just staffing availability, to can I even get in? And because you can reconfigure those, it's basically open the app, push the button. You're not having to go through emails. You're not having to go through, I mean, a lot of you have invested in notifiers to get information out to your staff, but then they got to respond back. And if they're responding back to that notifying system, you still got to import information into a status display or something else, or it's running separately from your EOC software. Or you're getting text messages and emails back, then you got to aggregate. And that probably works if you got 3 or 4 people, but when you've got hundreds of people or even dozens, this real time gives you that. You can actually watch your staff approaching, you know, if you have a no notice activation, you can actually see people say, I'm on my way in. You can actually see if they're actually moving in, or if they're still at home, or if they're starting to try to move through areas that now you're getting reports of damages. You know, you can essentially get back to them and say, hey, if you guys are coming on this direction, we just got updates from our first people there that's flooded. I'll recommend you take alternate routes. So it takes a lot of different capabilities in the one dashboard that you're watching in real time as they move. You can adjust to that, and they're not having to spend a lot of time updating you, nor are you having to go through a lot of different updates to figure out what's going on. So it speeds the process up, and again, because we're tying this to their phone, it gives you a very, you know, low-cost system that essentially, with that app, the hardware piece of it in their pockets are already a capitalized expense, and the rest of the system is then designed to feed your systems and your decision support tools. So I'm going to turn it back over to Jim, but just think about how quickly we're updating, and now imagine you've got dozens to hundreds of staff. They're all updating their statuses. It's feeding both these displays, but also feeding your EOC software, and nobody's having to do much more than press a button on their, open the app, press their status, 2 steps, and you're getting this information ingested in your system without any further work to see what's going on.
Well, now we've got the knowledge of the status, and people are going to start doing things. And one of the first things you're going to do will either be making assignments, or people will self-direct themselves to go to specific places to respond to specific activities. And that allows you to track your resources and where they are going, and do that by checking in to particular problem sets. So over here on the left-hand side, we're going to come in and identify a residential fire. A residential fire. The first thing that I have here is my directions. Google traffic directions that come right in there. So when somebody says, go to that residential fire, here's me down in the bottom right-hand corner here. That's me. There's the residential fire, and I now have directions to get there. But having said that, I want to tell everybody that I am, in fact, going to show up at that fire. So the pencil up in the upper left-hand corner, touch that. I come in and touch check-in, and what that has done is made me part of the team now responding to that residential fire. Website now, I come in and take a look at that residential fire, and I look at the resources that are available to me. They pop up right there. Click on that. Joins the team, Ron Kelly. That's this guy over here is Ron Kelly, you'll remember. He has now joined the team. If I decide I want to join the team, I simply do the same thing, do my check-in. I'm part of the team, and we'll see the growing number of people who become part of that team, and as a result, managers can begin to draw not just from maybe the specific and assigned staff, but others, volunteers. You've got a fire and you're going to have the Red Cross show up to bring coffee. You're going to know that they are heading to that scene, and there's Ron Kelly and Jim Morentz have now joined this team. So that's the second piece of helping to manage personnel, is the ability to say, either here's a problem we want you to go to, or here is a problem that is nearby you and you're going to self-deploy to support that particular effort. Anything on that one, Craig?
When we talk about this, and if you're interested in getting into talking about the product itself, imagine you have volunteer fire departments. You're sending out tone alerts, but you're not sure how many volunteers are now responding. Do you have enough people en route? And a lot of your systems are, they're either having to call in the dispatch or some other way to let dispatch know they're getting there. Again, with this, you turn up, they can respond to their going, they can build out the team so everybody else that's responding can see who else is responding. And again, a relatively straightforward application of this, but something that right now for a lot of volunteer fire departments, or people that depend upon staff who are not physically working at the location and they have to deploy to where the emergency is, being able to see who's en route, when they're getting there, and also now that they're starting to see the other team members, is a good situation where it's for somebody in the field who may not have that visibility or may be putting additional workloads on a dispatch center trying to build that out. With this tool, very little airtime, you're pressing buttons, you're very quickly updating status, and everybody can now see as that team's built, as the response is taking place, and get a better sense for how long is it going to take for people to get there just by looking at where they're at and how they're moving towards the area.
Well, let's move into the third portion of it. You want to carry your plans. You want to have plans that are available, and I'm going to illustrate a couple of things here with this John Marshall School. Details and directions that allow me to, again, figure out where the John Marshall School is. This time, over here in my tabs about John Marshall School, I have a plan, and I've got a floor plan. That floor plan is right there. I can control and distribute that floor plan as I wish, and thus provide on somebody's mobile app that same emergency plan. Here's the emergency plan for that county schools. If we turn to the mobile app, we'll show you how you can store plans permanently on the device so that if you lose connectivity, you still have your plans and checklists. So we come in here to the My IOI, and there's nothing in My IOI, but I can select this John Marshall School right there in the middle. And we see the information about it, and we also see that the documents that I saw are there. And I can add that to my IOI. And what's happening now is that I'm taking that set of plans, permanently moving it onto my device. Come over here to my IOI. I always have these plans now. Touch the documents. Got it, two little lists there. And if I want to see the floor plans, it comes right up on my device. So lose connectivity, you still have the plans. You can still organize all the people. Any thoughts on the plan part?
Well, I would like to point out one thing. As we talk about some of the things that this app we think has some great applicability is, imagine you have an active shooter on a school campus. You are both now able to see reports coming from the school, from teachers and staff to have this. And this is a closed ecosystem. Nobody from the public is seeing this information unless they are, just downloading the app doesn't give you access to this. You have to have the app, but you also then have to, your administrator gives them their access code and password. So nobody else that is not on the system, even if they've downloaded the app, can see this data. So in the event of a school shooting, active shooter on campus, active shooter in a mall, this allows you to have both the floor plans that they can now see the outlay, but also they're going to be able to get reports as teachers and staff are updating statuses. And again, they're not having to risk getting on the phone, they're not having to dial, they're not having to text message. They're literally opening an app and pressing a button. And if they are in this system and you have built it in a thing like an active shooter, you'll see those reports coming in, as well as making sure your responders aren't arriving there and going, where's this building at? They got the floor plans, they got the school plan, they have all that detail, and they're getting live information if the system is set up where the teachers and staff have this app. And again, this is all closed. It will not, unlike social media where people can monitor and see what you're putting out there, nobody else will see this information. So particularly as we've seen the sophistication of improvised terrorist attacks take place and the use of monitoring social media, this is not something the outside groups or adversaries can monitor. It's a closed system. The only people who are going to see the data are those you authorize. But it means that when you're responding into these situations, you have a lot of information at your fingertips, and you're able to overlay that now with the live reports coming out from those people that are in the system and develop situation awareness to me in a way that hasn't really been possible, being able to blend in a lot of different things in the one app, but also being able to now see that information from multiple locations, from my device in the field as I'm responding, from the district headquarters at the school, from the local emergency operations center. Everybody is seeing this information simultaneously, and as you update it and you move through this, wherever this information is coming from, everybody's getting it at the same time. You're not spending a lot of time having to email information. You're not spending a lot of time, over radios or phones trying to move traffic. And to me, it is this ability to speed up information, but also maintain a closed ecosystem to prevent unauthorized users and potentially adversaries from seeing this information, yet using the phone as your base level device, kind of this marrying all of this into a tool that is, to me, extremely powerful in the hands of your team. And again, this is just examples. As Jim will tell you, we will not be able to get to everything in this webinar, but if you are seeing things that interest you, we're trying to show you just the surface of it, but the follow-ups and ability to show you the business case and how this tool would work, what it costs, and I think as you look at this, help us help you by looking at this and seeing, what about this or what about that aspect? Because again, we're just covering the surface of a lot of these types of capabilities. Back to you, Jim.
Well, we move into the last part of our program today, which is to talk about field updates. And you actually, as we came down here, we saw that Craig had submitted a spot report over here. If we take a look at that spot report down at National Airport, and this is reporting a quick incident down there. I'm now going to show you how that works on the app side. And I'm going to be, since I'm back up here, on the left-hand side, touch spot report. And you see, spot report form is all filled out. There are 4 different levels. There's a report, or if it's something that you want to notify people that they ought to be watching, there's perhaps a problem, or is this actually really an emergency? And with each one of these items, it changes the default information that is there.
The default information is there so that if it is an emergency, I simply touch emergency and then submit, and someone knows what something is happening. Then we can fill in additional information later.
There's the Ron Kelly spot report that we just saw, and that was submitted in that couple of clicks. It in fact is the emergency level, and that's the way you can get in real quick information. But let's say I want to do something a little bit differently. It's just a regular report now, and I can highlight all the information and select it. Now I can actually just click my little microphone and I can start dictating that this is going to be a spot report, and it's coming from Ron, I think was the 10 name on this device.
If I want to include a photo or a video, I simply touch media and then touch camera, and that activates the device's camera to associate that photograph with this spot report.
Those are the major topics that we wanted to touch today. Personnel, status, check-in to facilities, plans to follow, and reports to make back from the field. Craig, you want to make some concluding comments?
Again, we wanted to take this opportunity to just kind of showcase very top-level stuff, but most of the infrastructure you're going to need for this, you already own. What we add and the actual product that you would be procuring is the SpotOnResponse and the Exchange Core setup so that you have your system where your administrator can then add your users on. But the mobile devices and all the things that are out there, the EOC management software you already have, this takes advantage of all that. This does not require you to change what you're doing. It takes what you already have and now adds that special sauce that basically takes its ability to turn all of your staff in the field into reports coming in. It gives you the ability to do status updates. It gives you the ability to provide information to your folks going out in the field. And as Jim was showing you, we did this real time. So I'm actually at the airport. I was actually hitting my status. I could move it around. It's going to change it. To situations, I could be okay coming in, and all of a sudden I get to a place where I can't come in any further, and I'm stuck. I'm not going to be able to get in. I can change my status. You'll see that up on your board. You can do a tally of where people are at. Because if your EOC is cranked up in a tornado touchdown, the last thing you need to do is be answering phone calls from staff saying, hey, I can't get in, or is there another route? They can update their status. You'll see that. You can then adjust. It just cuts down on the amount of time it takes to get information into your system so decision makers have that geocoded data for them to start making decisions versus waiting for reports to come in, get tabulated, get added to the system, get entered in. And again, the risk is in haste and when we're in a hurry and we're having to copy and paste things into different systems, we make mistakes. This one's pretty much the phone knows where it's at, one button updates for status, very quick spot reports. It's populating your systems, and with Exchange Core, this is really agnostic to the type of operating system you're running. So we're not, locked into, well, if you use this, you can't use other things, or you only can use this to look at your information. SpotOnResponse has a lot of good visualization and display tools, but if you're wanting to bring this information into your systems using Exchange Core, we have made it so that it is not going to dictate to you what you use or what you're currently using to use SpotOn, but SpotOn will blend into your system as well as providing you tremendous capabilities. Not only just the update status, but think about just what little bit you've seen on a handheld device, the kind of information at their fingertips, as well as their situational awareness of an evolving situation of what's going on around them. Historically, you had to wait till you got to the EOC to see this kind of data. I can see it on my phone, and so I can start making decisions about what's going on as I'm coming in, and I can start looking at this and say, hey, based upon these reports and stuff, I don't think we're at a high enough level. Let's go ahead and increase our activation level, get more people called in, get more resources moving, because I'm building situational awareness en route to the EOC, not waiting until I'm in the EOC to figure out how bad something is. So it has a lot of different types of capabilities. We've been talking about various use cases. But this is your opportunity to get back with us and go, I want more information, or hey, I got questions about that, or how does this really work? And let us walk you through what this tool can do for you and see if it's a good fit for your program. With that, I'll turn it back over to Jim, but we're standing by for follow-ups, and hopefully this has got you interested and you would like to see what else SpotOnResponse could do, and hopefully add this to your toolbox before the next disaster.
Thank you, Craig, and have a good flight back to Florida. Hope that goes easily. And I put up here that we do have a test drive. If you'd like to sign up, we go through a little bit of a conversation to understand what it is that you're trying to do, and then there's a test drive that has information from a previous major exercise out in California with several hundred different incidents and other observations, so that you can really take a look and see what others are using when you have 150 or so people who are using SpotOnResponse through a 3 or 4 day exercise, so you'll understand the richness of what it does. And our email addresses and phone numbers up there, and invite you to reach out to us, connect, and see whether we can do something exciting together. Thanks very much to all of you for joining today, and we will be in touch and look forward to talking to you. Thanks.